3 spine-chilling true Blackout horror tales revealed. Sinister secrets and unexplained terror await. The storm raged like a beast unleashed, thrashing against the windows of Sarah's small house in Maplewood. It howled and roared, clutching at the trees outside with gnarled fingers, and then, without warning, the lights extinguished. Darkness settled over the neighborhood, smothering everything in its path. "Mommy, I'm scared!" Lily's voice trembled, breaking through the suffocating silence. Ethan clutched his sister's hand, his big eyes wide with fear. The absence of light transformed their familiar home into a labyrinth of shadows. Sarah squeezed them tight, trying to inject some cheer into the bleakness. "Let's pretend we're on an adventure, like pirates sailing the high seas," she said, forcing a smile that felt hollow. But the game couldn't last. Scraping sounds, faint but deliberate, crept from the back door. It sent shivers racing down her spine. Was it the wind, a branch, or something more sinister? Her heart raced, pounding in her chest as she glanced back, searching the dark corners of their room for reassurance. What lay just beyond reach? Outside, shifting shadows seemed to dance, wild and uninvited. "I'll check it out," she lied, forcing herself to stand, but her legs felt heavy, as if weighted down by dread. The whispers began then. Murmurs threaded through the air, just out of grasp, fluttering like moths drawn to flame. She strained to listen, but only caught fragments. "Help me, they watching." Panic clawed at her as she turned toward the windows. Had someone been there? Were eyes peering through the darkness, just out of sight? Before she could spiral into despair, the weight of her anxiety pulled her deeper into paranoia. Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, the ever-smiling politician who seemed to embody Maplewood's charm, had been lurking outside all day. He had always imposed a sense of security, an anchor in this beleaguered town. But now he felt like a specter. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With renewed resolve, Sarah tiptoed towards the back door, the dark stretching ominously before her. Shadows twisted and curled, forming grotesque shapes in the flickering candlelight as more scraping echoed around the house. The hairs on her arms stood on end. Each sound took on its own personality, taunting her sanity. Suddenly a loud crash reverberated from the porch. She jumped, heart racing, all thoughts of adventure evaporating. "Stay here," she hissed, adrenaline surging, moving towards the door. What if it was Mr. Thompson? But why? Rivulets of sweat slipped down her back as she pulled at the doorknob, feeling like she was on the edge of something horrific. And then, from the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of movement. A silhouette, darker than the night itself, stood just beyond her patio, its presence sucking all warmth from the air. It was watching, waiting. Sarah's breath caught as she realized this figure, this unknown stalker, was the very embodiment of her worst fears. What secrets did Maplewood hide beneath its cracked surface? As her pulse quickened, the shadow lurked closer, and Sarah stood frozen, knowing her next decision could seal her family's fate. Fear and instinct battled within her as she weighed the danger lurking within the darkness. Would she confront it, or would the shadows consume her whole? The figure lurked, its outline barely discernible against the inky blackness. Sarah's breath quickened. The humming in her ears drowned out the storm outside, leaving only the sound of her thundering heart. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling, feeling it dissolve into the night. Instinctively, she moved closer to the door, the candlelight flickering in weak defense. The silhouette shifted, and something cold snaked up her spine. "Just a neighbor," it rasped, a voice that seemed borrowed from her nightmares. Every muscle tensed in her body, ready to bolt, ready to protect her children. But where could they run? "Mommy, please don't go," Lily whimpered from the shadows behind her, her trust hanging by a thread, shrouded in fear. "Stay close to Ethan," Sarah whispered back, trying to sound brave, trying to ignore the despair clutching her throat. But she couldn't keep her eyes away from the figure. Was it truly Mr. Thompson, the cheerful man who lived next door, the one who had waved at them just hours ago? "What do you want? What do—" The figure stepped forward, the dim candlelight catching something glinting in its hand. A knife? Fear turned solid inside her. It wasn't just any neighbor. It was a predator. "You need to come out, Sarah. We need to talk." The voice was syrupy, sickly sweet, masking a deeper menace beneath. Her mind raced. Talk! There was no talking. She charted her options, tensed and ready. "You should leave," she said, hoping to buy time, hoping it would retreat into the shadows. But it didn't budge. Instead, it leaned closer, the shadows swallowing its features, the storm outside crashing thunderously. "You and I have a connection, don't we? I've seen the things you've hidden, your fears, your secrets." A chill tore through her. Who was this thing? How did it know her? As the whispers returned, louder this time, Sarah felt the walls of her sanity start to crumble. The words were taunting her now, echoing her worst fears, memories long buried. "They watch. They know." "Stop it," she screamed, her voice breaking. She stepped back, instinctively dragging her children with her, pressing against the cold, unforgiving door frame. The shadow began to morph, almost expanding into the space around it. "You don't have to hide anymore," it crooned, eyes like pools of darkness, sucking any light or hope from the room. Sarah felt her resolve waver, torn between dread and the urge to flee. But where? The house, their fortress, had become a prison. Pushing past the shaking air, she reached for the doorknob, but hesitation gripped her. What if it wasn't just Mr. Thompson? What if it was worse? Something bent on terrorizing them, consuming them whole. In that moment everything went still. The candle flickered one last time, a tiny beacon of light fading against the shadows. "This is your last chance, Sarah," it hissed, now unnervingly close, the scent of decay wafting towards her. "Join me." Something inside her snapped. With a wild scream, she threw open the door and bolted outside, the storm swallowing her whole. The rain pummeled her face as she stumbled into the yard. But as she turned back, the figure remained standing in the doorway, lips curling into a wicked smile. "Run, little rabbit," it taunted. "You can't escape. I know where you are." Heart-pounding, Sarah dashed toward the trees, uncertainty whispering words of horror. What had she unleashed? The shadows stretched longer, reaching out like greedy hands, but one question lingered. Would she find safety in the woods, or was it merely the calm before something even worse? As thunder rumbled ominously overhead, she vanished into the storm-soaked night, a chilling realization dawning. She was not the only one hiding in the darkness. Branches clawed at Sarah's skin as she fled deeper into the woods. Rain slapped against her face like tiny icy hands trying to pull her back. She stumbled, mud sucking at her shoes, but she forced herself onward. Somewhere, relatives of the dead whispered her name, drowning in the thunder. Were they begging for mercy or demanding retribution? Behind her, the night pulsed with an uneasy energy. The laughter from that figure echoed like an unwelcome melody, taunting her sanity mindlessly. She knew it had no intention of letting her escape, not tonight. She could almost feel its gaze, heavy and suffocating, washing over her like the rain. "Mommy, where are you?" Ethan's voice broke through the cacophony, trembling and small. The little boy's plea tightened her heart. "I'm coming," she shouted, desperate to sound calm. The darkness swallowed her words, but she pressed on. Trees loomed like giants, their branches stretching to intertwine like fingers. "Ethan? Lily?" She turned, thinking back, hoping they were close behind. Fear gnawed at her insides as silence returned, oppressive and unyielding. Did the shadow catch them? Was it feasting on their fear? Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. She squinted through the sheets of rain, the twisted outline of a figure darting between the trees. Her breath hitched. Terror streaked through her. In the chaos, she felt her footing slip as she slipped on slick moss beneath her feet. "Please, no," she gasped, trying to regain balance. But before she could right herself, a hand clamped around her wrist, squeezing hard enough to leave bruises. She gasped, heart racing as she looked up, praying it was her children. But the face that met her was not innocent. It was the same twisted grin she had seen in her doorway. "Did you think you could run from me, Sarah?" It hissed, the voice smooth and dark, echoing through her mind. "I'm just getting started." With a swift motion it yanked her closer, dragging her deeper into the darkness. She kicked and thrashed, screaming for her children, but her cries drowned in the rain, fizzing away into the night. "Oh, they're safe for now," the figure cooed, like a mockery of a loving parent. "But every secret has its price, and you owe me so very much." Sarah's stomach knotted with the realization. The veil of terror hung heavier, palpable in the raindrops that twisted around her. She was trapped, not just in the woods, but within the very depths of her past. The secrets, the sins she thought buried, clawed to the surface, demanding forgiveness. In a split-second burst of adrenaline, she twisted free from its grip. The shock on its face gave her a fleeting moment of hope, and she bolted in the other direction, faster this time. She didn't stop to look back. Racing through the dense trees, she lost her bearings, the familiar slivers of daylight replaced by a venomous darkness. Shadows danced and shifted, taunting her from every angle. Panic surged. How deep had she gone? Every rustle amplified her fear, and that voice, deep and echoing, haunted her every step, whispering secrets, reminding her of the things she'd tried so hard to forget. A sudden flash of light cut through the darkness, illuminating a clearing just ahead. An abandoned cabin? Or was it a trap? She skidded to a halt, weighing her options. The figure would find her. She knew that now. It thrived on this fear, the essence of her terror giving it strength. Lily's voice echoed in her mind. "Mommy!" With no time to waste, Sarah pushed forward, heart hammering in her chest. Each creak of the cabin felt like an invitation, the warped door ajar as though beckoning her inside. "Please, please, let them be safe," she muttered to herself, stepping into the darkness. But as she crossed the threshold, the air shifted violently. Then came a laugh, an unsettling cackle that made her blood run cold. "Welcome home, Sarah," the voice sang with sickening glee. "Let's have a chat." What lay ahead? Would she confront her ghosts or become just another wandering shadow in the storm? Darkness enveloped her as she stepped inside, the air thick with secrets and loss. The cabin felt alive, breathing with memories long forgotten. Wooden floorboards creaked underfoot, groaning in protest, as if warning her to turn back. Every inch of the place whispered of despair, as if the walls themselves were weeping. "Sarah," the voice sang again, echoing around her like a haunting lullaby. She blinked against the dimness, searching for the source. With every heartbeat, the shadows loomed larger, swirling toward her in a dizzying dance. She took a trembling step further inside. A flickering candle flickered from a cobwebbed corner, casting warped shadows that twisted onto the walls. There, carved into the wood, were names. Names she recognized, names she had lost. Grief squeezed her chest tight. "Ethan! Lily!" She choked out, desperation clawing up her throat. Where were they? Each breath tasted metallic, each second stretched into eternity. And then the laughter came again, this time from behind her. "Are they out there?" "Searching for you," The sound sent an icy shiver through her, paralyzing her with dread. She turned slowly, knowing she wouldn't like what she found, but she had no choice. "Show yourself!" she shouted, her voice breaking. The veil of darkness parted, revealing the figure standing in the doorway, drenched and slick with rain. Its eyes gleamed like shards of broken glass, unrelenting and hungry. "They're close. But close isn't good enough," it taunted, every word a slice of glass in the air. "Leave them alone!" she screamed, fists trembling at her sides. "Alone?" it echoed, tilting its head with that maddening grin. "But I thought we were playing together." Before she could respond, it lunged. Sarah stumbled backward, chaos consuming her thoughts. She darted past furniture draped in dust, a sudden image of a family moment surfacing, smiling faces around a table cracked like thunder in her head. She could almost hear the echoing laughter, but it drowned under the sinister undertone of the figure's presence. "Do you remember the family you lost, Sarah?" Dark whispers filled the space, clawing at her mind. "Every choice has consequences. You chose to forget." With a scream, she dashed for the door, heart racing. The world outside felt so far away, like an unreachable dream. She burst through the threshold, slamming into the mud, rain drenching her body anew. But it didn't matter. She just had to run, had to find her children. But the woods held secrets of their own. A chilling wind surged, nearly knocking her off her feet, as if the trees themselves were pushing her back, urging her to stay away from the truth she fled. "Ethan! Lily!" she wept, voice cracking against the storm. Then she heard it, the faint sound of giggling coming from just beyond the trees. It flickered in and out like a candle, warm amidst the cold darkness. "Mommy," came Ethan's sweet voice, but the joy of it sliced through her like a knife. "Stay where you are!" she shouted back, dread twisting in her stomach. But the laughter grew louder, inviting, a call she couldn't ignore. She stumbled toward them, branches snapping under her feet, the shadows creeping closer again. The laughter was both alluring and horrid, a melody of innocence brimming with something dark below. As she reached the clearing where the sound echoed from, her blood ran ice-cold. Ethan and Lily were standing in the middle of the glade, their faces bright with smiles, but something was off. Their figures flickered like a light on the verge of dying, swirling darkness beneath their skin. "Mommy, come play with us," they called, hands reaching forward, beckoning her in a dreamlike trance. She froze, panic clawing at her throat. "No, you're not my children." The realization crashed over her. The shadows were stealing them, turning them into bait. The figure emerged from behind the trees, malice dancing in its eyes. "What will you do, Sarah? Will you save them, or let them slip away into the dark, like the secrets you buried?" Chilling laughter echoed as the shadows twisted, swallowing her children whole. "Choose," it whispered, and Sarah's heart stopped. What was the true cost of love? A decision that could haunt her forever. Could she save them before it was all too late? The laughter echoed through the glade, bouncing off the trees like a sinister wind. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she stood immobilized. The shadows wrapped around her children, threatening to snuff out the last flickers of light in their eyes. "Mommy!" Ethan cried, voice cracking, as if he felt the darkness clawing at him too. "Don't go!" But they were not her children anymore. Not like this. Sarah fought against the instinct to rush forward. She struggled to take a breath, the air thickening with the weight of dread. "I won't choose," she shouted, desperation biting at her words. "You can't take them from me." The figure laughed again, a sound filled with malice. "Ah, but you already have. Every choice is a sacrifice, a game of light and shadow. Yours, my dear, is an inevitable loss." As if on cue, the darkness around her children pulsed, hungry and gaining strength. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, forcing back tears. "No, I won't lose them." The frantic beat of her heart mingled with the rhythmic laughter, a tempo that spiraled into madness. The shadows pulsated, and she caught glimpses of faces trapped within, lost souls, victims of prior choices, their mouths frozen in silent screams. It was a gallery of despair, each visage telling a tale of broken bonds and shattered hopes. "Mom!" Lily's voice broke through. "Help us!" It sounded weaker now, as though the darkness were siphoning the very essence of her children. "Sarah," the figure whispered, stepping closer, its presence chilling the air. "The choice is yours. Save them and lose yourself, or turn away and let the darkness feast." Panic surged through Sarah. She couldn't think. Time was slipping away, along with any hope of salvation. "You stay back," she shouted, but the words felt fragile, breaking against the weight of the figure's looming presence. "Then what will you do?" It grinned wider, the shadows swirling around, wrapping tighter around her children. They were calling for her, but the voices, now twisted in pitch, sounded hollow, mocking. "Mommy, help! You love us, don't you?" They beckoned again, but their faces seemed to morph into something sinister, distorting the familiarity she'd held in her heart. "Stop!" Sarah choked, the tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "You're not them." The laughter crescendoed, blending with the unsettling whispers of the woods. Elemental rage surged within her. "I'll find you!" she screamed into the murky abyss, grounding herself for just a moment in that tiny flicker of hope. "I won't forget you." In that instant, an icy wind whipped through the glade. The figure staggered back slightly, something resembling surprise flickering across its face. Sarah seized the moment, screaming for her children amidst the swirling chaos. She felt the bond tugging at her heart, stronger than the shadows around them. "Ethan, Lily, hold on, I'm coming!" With a surge of reckless determination, she lunged into the dark mass, threatening to engulf them. Instantly, an anguished wail pierced the air. Stinging pain lanced through her, tearing at her skin, but she pressed on, love propelling her beyond the pain. As she pushed further, the shadows pulsated around her, twisting and writhing, pulling her down. The faint glow of her children's faces battled against the darkness. "Sarah," a voice called, softer this time. It was laden with urgency. But as she reached out for them, the world cracked like glass around her, fracturing her vision. And then, silence. The laughter stopped. The wind died. The shadows stilled. "Mommy?" came a fragile whisper, barely audible, before the chilling echoes returned, layers of despair folding back into the silence. Sarah looked around, dread filling her veins. "Children, where are you?" As the darkness began to retract, a figure emerged from the tree line, cloaked in black mist. It laughed in that familiar, sinister tone, eyes glassy and glinting with malice. "The hard part is just beginning," it said, stepping forward, extending a hand toward her. Could she trust it? Would she ever have the chance to piece together the remnants of her family? With dread pooling in her stomach, the question loomed larger than the shadows around her. What lay ahead, waiting just beyond her fragile grasp? The figure before her was a silhouette of terror, the essence of everything that haunted her. As it stepped into the slowly fading light, shadows trailed behind it like smoke, curling around its frame, clinging with an insatiable hunger. "Who are you?" Sarah managed to choke out, her voice trembling. The figure's laughter faded into a chilling silence, wrapping them both in an oppressive layer of uncertainty. "You already know," it hissed, the sound slithering through the air. Each word dripped with contempt, pulling at the fraying edges of her sanity. "You've played this game before." A sudden wave of memories crashed over her, flashes of wrong turns, desperate choices made in darkness. Places where she thought they were safe, but turned out to be traps full of nightmares. The creature's eyes glinted as if savoring her dawning realization. I am the echo of every choice you wish to unmake. Her breath hitched. Every decision she had taken to guide her family to safety now wound tighter around her like a noose. If she had chosen differently at just one point, would things be different? Frustration ignited inside her. What do you want with us? Your children. They are so full of light, it purred, taking another step closer. And the darkness hungers. But we can make a deal. It offered her a toothy grin. Its mouth was too wide, too unnatural. But what will it cost? She whispered, her heart racing. She fought to keep herself from recoiling. Everything has a price. Only what affects you, the unnecessary burdens, the painful memories. You can spare yourself. It leaned closer, its voice softening, a deceptive lullaby. All I need is your permission, Ede. The weight of the moment pressed against her chest. This deal, it felt like a lurking venom, promising relief, but hiding greater horrors beneath. Behind the figure, the shadows twisted, shifting in anticipation. Do you want to save your children? It whispered, coaxing her, desperately igniting the flicker of hope still alive in her heart. The idea seeped into her mind, tendrils of dark allure wrapping around her resolve. Stop! Sarah shot back suddenly, breaking free from the seductive grip. I won't let you twist my love into your game. I'd rather fight. Such spirit! The figure recoiled, hissing with frustration. But spirit doesn't save, only sacrifice does. Remember that. Before she could respond, the ground beneath her trembled. The darkness began to swirl violently, lifting her feet from the ground. Choose! The figure roared, a chaos of laughter emanating as thorny shadows struck at her skin, leaving cool trails of dread. She struggled against the tide, grasping for the fading light that still flickered amidst the chaos, her children's faces as vivid as the pain. I will find you! She cried again, knowing that saying their names was a lifeline, tethering her to hope. The darkness convulsed, inky fingers curling up her arms, pulling her closer to the abyss. What will you sacrifice? It taunted, a sinister cadence filling the air. I'd give anything, she screamed defiantly, every ounce of her being refusing to back down. Then silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. The shadows paused, coiling like a snake ready to strike. The figure tilted its head, intrigued. Anything? It echoed, as if testing her resolve. In that charged silence, an idea sparked within Sarah, an idea so reckless, so poignant, it sent a shiver of fear racing down her spine. I'll pay the price, if it means saving them. And suddenly the shadows exploded around her, engulfing her in a whirlwind of darkness. A rift opened in her mind, a dangerous path now beckoning. As she teetered on the edge of the abyss, she realized that her decision had set something in motion far darker than she could imagine. Allow me to show you, the figure said, with a grin that seemed to stretch impossibly wide, the true price of love. As the vortex wrapped tighter around her, she felt herself slipping into the darkness, the last echoes of her children fading like whispers on the wind. What was the real cost? And perhaps, more hauntingly, could she ever reverse her choice? With dread uncoiling in her stomach, the shadows closed in. The moment of truth was upon her, and with it, the promise of unimaginable terror lurked just beyond her sight. The shadows surged, enveloping Sarah in a suffocating embrace that felt alive. She gasped, her lungs constricted. The figure's laughter echoed, rising like a symphony of dread, resonating within her mind. Fear clawed at her insides, making every heartbeat feel like thunder against the silence. "What have I done?" she whispered, terror licking at her resolve. The figure stepped forward, a dark wave cascading behind it like twisted banners of despair. "You've made a choice," it crooned, each syllable dripping with malice. "And choices have consequences. Are you ready to see?" A chill shivered down her spine. Reality twisted around her as the darkness thickened, pulling her through a rift of time and space. Suddenly, she stood at the gates of a twisted version of her life. The air was heavy, saturated with whispers of despair. There, in the depths of the other side, her children played, shadows of joy, but their laughter was hollow, echoing into nothingness. Frantic, she reached for them, but invisible chains held her back, tugging her. "Stop!" she screamed, the panic rising like bile. "Let me go to them!" The figure loomed, its eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. "Such love," it mocked, "but where love exists, pain is never far behind. Can you bear witness to what you've chosen?" As it spoke, the scene shifted. The colors drained from everything, leaving only a flickering grayscale. Each flicker displayed a memory, a moment where she chose fear instead of courage, a decision made out of self-preservation rather than love. "Look closely," it rasped, a twisted smile spreading across its face. And she did. She saw herself, eyes wide with terror, turning away when she should have reached out. The echo of her mistakes played like a haunting lullaby. Each choice reverberated, ricocheting through her soul, deepening her despair. "No! I tried my best," she cried, tears forming, blurring her view. But even they felt like her betrayals, reminders of every moment she stepped back from the darkness, only to plunge deeper. "Your children are still here," the figure urged, its voice now a soft, sickly, sweet whisper. "But will you save them? The darkness feeds on abandonment. You know the price," it continued, every word curling in around her heart like vines of despair. "I can't," she breathed, trembling. "Not again. I won't sacrifice what's left of my hope." The shadows responded, a tactile roiling of anger that sent jolts through her. "Hope is merely a resting place for despair. What do you think binds you to this world?" The darkness stirred violently, pulling her limbs as if they were puppets on strings. The children's laughter twisted into cries, echoing through time. "No!" she screamed, pulling against the inky tendrils. "I choose to fight! I choose them!" And just as the words left her lips, a rift opened again. Light burst from the edges, illuminating the darkness in a flash of brilliant white. The figure screeched, its form distorting, melting like wax in a flame. "Foolish woman!" it howled, the shadows recoiling. "Do you think your defiance means anything? You are but a pawn in a greater game." As the light enveloped her, she felt a surge of strength, a defiance boiling within her. Yet the flickering of her children's laughs haunted her, reminding her of what she stood to lose. But what if fighting caused her to lose them even more? A crack in her resolve began to form. "Save them," she whispered, the words fragile and shaky. "Please, I just want them to be safe." "Then sacrifice," the figure hissed, the darkness shifting. "Sacrifice what you hold most dear to save them. That is the only way." With that ultimatum hanging in the air, the chilling weight of the decision bore down on her like a load of bricks. She stood at a fork in her own heart, a deadly choice lingering in the shadows. Would she give in to the darkness? As the light flickered dangerously, an image flashed in her mind. A vision of herself, standing in the growing shadows, a horrible smile playing on her lips. The looming darkness beckoned again, blurring the edges of what she thought she knew. What would she be willing to sacrifice to keep her children? In a world where nothing was certain, Sarah felt the very floor of reality shift beneath her. "Choose wisely, Sarah," the figure taunted, its haunting laughter ringing in her ears as the shadows deepened. "There's a steep price for survival." And as the light dimmed, her heart raced. What could she do? What truth was hiding in the darkness, just waiting to emerge? The light flickered, casting erratic shadows across the twisted landscape that surrounded her. It bent the darkness, but didn't chase it away. Sarah felt the weight of despair pressing down, melding reality with nightmarish visions. She looked around, panic swelling in her chest. Time was unraveling like an old frayed rope. "Make your choice," the figure crooned, its voice a velvet whisper that slipped into her ear. What matters most to you, your children or your precious hope? She inhaled sharply, the world spinning. I won't give up my hope. But even as she said it, doubt crept in like a thief. The darkness thickened, swirling like a storm ready to devour. The flashes of her past choices assaulted her, moments of failing to shield her kids, allowing fear to dictate her actions. So many regrets, too many ghosts. Every shadow was a reminder of her failures, and she could feel them clawing at her sanity. Do you hear them? The figure taunted, reaching into her mind, stirring her nightmares. The cries of your children, they are drowning in your weakness. No, she gasped, her hands trembling. She squeezed her eyes shut, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. I refuse to listen. Then let's see if your resolve can withstand the truth, it hissed. A surge of darkness erupted, each tendril curling closer around her throat, tightening like a noose. Stop! Get away from me! Desperation clawed at her. What do you want? Everything, it rasped, its face shifting, warping into hideous shapes. You've played your part, but now it's time for the finale. Will you save them? Suddenly, the darkness retreated. The children flashed before her eyes, their faces warped in fear. In that moment, clarity pierced through her turmoil. She had to surrender something. But what? A piece of her soul? A sliver of hope? Sacrifice? The figure whispered again, mischief lacing its words. What would you give for your children's laughter to echo with joy instead of sorrow? A puzzle in the making. Can you see how it fits? In that chilling instant, Sarah's heart raced. She felt like a moth caught in an inescapable web of dark choices. What are you? Why is this happening? Because, love, it sang, stretching the word thick with mockery. Love is often a chain that binds you to pain. But pain brings clarity, and clarity brings power. You can wield it, Sarah. Are you ready to take control? The shadows began to swirl with a will of their own, shifting shapes that echoed distant memories of her past failures. She stumbled back, the memories sharp like razors. Flickers of laughter twisted into howls, her very essence splintering. Enough! She shouted, trying to drown out the cacophony. I won't bow to you. No, it said with an oily smile. Then embrace your truth, my dear. You are the architect of your own suffering. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears as reality fluctuated, flipping from her darkest moments to fleeting glimpses of light. Despair clawed and competence beckoned. She could sense her children's warmth, their vibrant innocence beneath layers of fear. Let me save them, Sarah pleaded, her arms reaching out, eyes wide with anguish. But the figure only laughed, a chilling, mirthless sound that sent shivers down her spine. Find the price worth paying, then, it said softly, and do it quickly, dear Sarah. The darkness grows impatient. Sarah looked into the abyss, ready to touch its edge, her heart a ticking time bomb. She felt the rift pulling at her as choices whirled in a vortex, love and sacrifice intertwining, ready to take their toll. And then she saw it, a vision of herself, bound by the very darkness that now surrounded her. Would she dare cross that line? What could the sacrifice cost? With terror flooding her veins, Sarah steeled her resolve. She would not falter. But how far would she go? The shadows loomed larger than ever, and as the figure smiled menacingly, the question loomed over her like an executioner's blade. What would she be willing to give? What part of herself would she pay to see her children safe? The game was far from over. The final cost was yet to be unveiled. Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum, each thud a reminder of the ticking clock echoing in her mind. The figure loomed, a spectral presence rising from the layers of gloom, its eyes dark voids penetrating her soul. The shadows danced around her, rippling with a life of their own, feeding off her fear. Don't you want to see them smile again? The figure hissed, its voice a chilling melody. But first, you must decide what you treasure most." What did she treasure? Was it her children's laughter, or was it the hope of a better life? She felt torn apart, her spirit struggling to escape the choking grasp of the entity before her. I won't trade my love for hope," she stammered, her voice a fragile whisper. "Oh, but dear Sarah," it purred, "hope can be the cruelest illusion. It binds you, it limits you." As if responding to its words, shadows surged forth from the very fabric of the night. They crawled across her skin, cold and clammy, igniting a fierce panic that clawed at her gut. She staggered back, desperately searching for an escape, but the darkness had other plans. "Your children are at the mercy of your choices. Don't you see? Every moment of fear, every ounce of regret, it feeds me. It can end. You just have to relinquish your grasp on hope. Embrace the truth within the darkness." With that, the visage shifted, showing her a horrific tableau of her children, helpless and terrified. Despair tightened its noose around her throat, suffocating her resolve. They cried out, their voices blended with the tortured echoes of her failures. The sound was a gut punch, tearing at what little courage remained. "Wake up!" she cried, hands clenching into fists. "They need me! I won't let you take them!" The figure chuckled, high, cold, and full of malice. "And what if saving them means destroying yourself?" As its words sank in, the shadows flickered, morphing into her most haunting memories. Her daughter's first day of school, her son's frightened face during a thunderstorm. Each memory was a shard of glass, cutting deep. Sarah grasped her head in agony, the pain echoing through every fiber of her being. She needed clarity, she needed strength. In the depths of her soul, something stirred, a flicker of defiance. "I'll save them," she vowed fiercely, eyes blazing with resolve, "no matter the cost." The figure leaned closer, its breath like ice against her skin. "Very well, but what price are you willing to pay?" With a rush of wind, the shadows retreated slightly, revealing a path woven from the same darkness. It beckoned to her like a siren's call, both haunting and tempting. "Follow me," the figure whispered, motioning down the shadowed way. "Find the sacrifice buried deep inside. You must seek it out, trust it. Only then will you understand just how far you can reach. Choose wisely, for time slips away." With each word, Sarah felt lingering doubts clawing at her insides. Could she forsake her essence? The thought churned, a dark river of consequence crashing within her mind. She hesitated, the temptation paralyzing. As she stood at the threshold of dark temptation, her breath quickening, she glanced back at the flickering images of her children, waiting, pleading. They were the essence of her soul. The darkness swirled, eager to claim her. Would she dare step into the unknown? Would she dare to pay the price of the shadows for their safety? The figure's smile widened, revealing teeth serrated like a wolf's. "Every choice has its consequences, Sarah. Will you walk the line, or will you drown in the tide?" Just as she was about to take a step forward, a blinding light pierced the darkness, illuminating her path. For an instant, clarity washed over her, a glimmer of hope intertwined with despair. Would the light guide her, or would it reveal an even darker truth lying in wait? Arms frozen, breath caught, Sarah faced the abyss, standing on the brink of both salvation and ruin. What would she uncover? What sacrifice awaited her if she chose to leap? The suffocating silence was filled with the tremors of dread and the promise of revelation. A sudden roar of thunder split the night as the swirling shadows coalesced around Sarah. The figure before her grinned broadly, its eyes glowing with a mocking gleam. "You've tasted fear enough to know, haven't you? This world gives and takes in equal measure. But only you can choose what you're willing to lose, your hope, your children, or perhaps your very soul." "Stop it!" Sarah shouted, her heart racing. "You won't control me!" Each word felt like armor against the malice threatening to engulf her. "You're already lost," it hissed, shadows swirling closer. The ground trembled beneath her, a reminder that something dark awaited. She felt suffocated by terror, but amidst the chaos, whispers of clarity began to emerge, a realization illuminated by the flickering light behind her memories. Through the murky haze, she could almost hear her children's voices calling for her, their laughter now tinged with fear and uncertainty. "Hold on!" she screamed, clenching her fists. "I will not lose you!" In that moment, a spark ignited deep within. "I will fight!" she roared defiantly, standing tall against the looming dread. The truth she feared most began to crystallize in her mind. Sacrifice didn't have to mean relinquishing everything she loved. It could be offering a part of herself, a piece she had been unwilling to face. As the darkness coiled around her limbs like icy chains, Sarah shouted, "If to save them I must fall, I'll welcome that." The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if stung by her words. She took a step forward into the depths of the darkness swirling to consume her, determined to confront her deepest fears. An electrifying pulse surged through the air, throbbing against her heart as the world twisted. "They need me! I need them!" she screamed into the void, a raw truth bursting forth. Suddenly a rift opened, a doorway of blinding light flared in the darkness, pushing back the shadows. The figure shrieked, revealing its true horror. A veneer of darkness, unable to withstand the weight of her resolve. "No! You mustn't!" But before it could finish, Sarah dashed through the portal, the blinding light enveloping her like a warm embrace, pulling her into something new, something alive. She found herself standing in a familiar meadow, bright sunlight washing over her skin. Instinctively, she turned her gaze to the left, and there they were, Ethan and Lily, their faces radiant with joy, free from the shadows that had sought to claim them. "Mommy!" they yelled, racing toward her with wide-open arms, their laughter ringing like pure bells of hope. She gasped and knelt to embrace them, squeezing them tight against her chest. They were safe. The darkness shrieked in the distance, fading like a dying echo. The figure trembled at the edge of the light, fading into shadow, its power stripped away. "You may have escaped, but the next time—" it hissed before dissipating completely. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she pulled her children closer. "I'm so sorry. I will always fight for you, fight to protect you," she whispered, breathless with relief. "Nothing will take you from me again." As the warmth of sunlight enveloped them, she felt a profound shift within her, a painful reminder of the choices she had made, but also an assurance that she could stand against her fears if it meant safeguarding her family. With the ghosts of her past receding around them, Sarah realized she no longer had to be shackled by fear or regret. She could meet each day armed with hope, love, and renewed strength. The sun soared higher in the sky, casting away shadows as laughter filled the meadow. Their future shone bright, free from the dark, heavy chains that had once threatened to bind them. "Let's go on an adventure," Ethan exclaimed. "Yeah," Lily echoed, her smile lighting up the world around them. As they raced forward, their laughter mingled with the gentle breeze, the darkness finally receding far beyond. They had faced the shadows and emerged into the light. And in that moment, Sarah knew, no matter what darkness lay ahead, they would face it together, a united force against the terrors that dared to encroach upon their lives. Never again would she run from it. This was their story, their triumph over fear, a somber promise cutting through as she held her children close. This love wouldn't just endure, it would prevail. And so they walked on, hand in hand, toward a future that glimmered with hope. Before the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Sarah turned back one last time, a fierce determination fueling her heart. She would always fight. For them, for every shadow they faced together, and for the love that had brought them back from the brink. Let the darkness come, because they were ready. Hey, if you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories coming soon. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm and spread the word. And flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Let me know how you felt. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this spine-chilling journey. Your support makes a huge difference.